where military officers Marco Chirizi and Eric Lopes saw this creature run across the road in front of them. Slammed on his brakes. Marco jumps out the passenger door and grabs this thing with his bare hands. And he takes it and he puts it in the back seat on his lap. Believe it was the back seat.
On his lap?
On his lap, yes. And they take it initially to a clinic in the town of Varginha, and the guy comes out and says, I don't know what the heck that thing is. Get it out of here. What are you guys doing? Kind of thing. And so they go to another hospital called Hospital Regional. And at which point the creature remains in regional hospital. Sorry, the creature remains in regional hospital for, I'm not sure exactly how long, but it ultimately ended up in Humanitas Hospital. And we have testimony from doctors that performed certain things, as well as military guys that drove the creature. We have the entire area where the creature was. So they captured two creatures. One was alive, and I think the other one was not alive.
The one that Eric Lopes caught that you said was in his lap in the car, was that one alive or dead?
It was alive.
That one was still alive.
Yeah, and put up very little resistance. Mm-hmm. So he got a cut on his arm, kind of on his shoulder, like right here, during the capture of it. Whether it scratched him with a nail or I don't know what exactly happened, but he got infection. And within days, week or whatever it was, he went into the hospital. The doctor administered antibiotics, and he said he'd never in all of his years prior or since seen anything like it. Marco Chirizi, a perfectly healthy 23-year-old young man, got this like complete immune system failure, and he died. And we interviewed the family, his sister. We interviewed the doctor who worked on him. And they wanted to put him in the ground as soon as possible.
I couldn't believe that you actually got the doctor on camera, the doctor that treated him.
I know, it's crazy, right?
What did he say? What was he looking for? What did he see when he was treating Eric?
He just said that he'd never in all of his career, and he's been in there for like 40 plus years, he's never seen someone with an infection from a simple cut like that have a complete immune system failure and not respond to any of the antibiotics that he pumped him full of everything, and nothing worked at all. And his health just went down and he died.
There was some sort of mention of a granular toxin.
Yeah, I know. I didn't quite, yes. We have the autopsy reports, which the family had to fight to get. We interviewed, I didn't interview his wife. His wife was interviewed one time very briefly, never seen the light of day, by Roger Lear. Dr. Roger Lear is a UFO researcher. He used to take, allegedly, implants out of people. And when Roger Lear found out that I was making this movie years ago, 2014, he was adamant that he wanted to talk with me. He wanted to get together, and I sincerely wanted to talk to him too. But I was investigating Rua at the time, and I was kind of backburning Varginha case. Long story short, he said, well, if you can't get me on camera, you got to have my tapes. I went to Varginha in 2002, and I documented a bunch of witnesses, some of whom have gone off the radar completely forever. Those tapes had never seen the light of day. I transferred the tapes, had them digitized, and then Dr. Roger Lear sent them back to Dr. Roger Lear, and then he died. And so I never got a chance to talk to Dr. Roger Lear, but I got his tapes. And one of those tapes, he interviewed the wife of Marco Chirizi. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody's even going to get a hold of her. But nobody had ever managed to get the driver, Eric Lopes. He'd been in hiding for like 26 years.
Marco, what's the name of the guy who died again?
Marco Chirizi.
That was Marco.
Marco
right.
Chirizi died, yes. He was the guy that leapt out of the passenger seat and grabbed this creature, apparently.
And the guy who was driving the car has never been... Now,
won't even talk to the family of the guy who deceased.
The guy who was driving the car, that's the guy who basically was about to shoot you guys.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a crazy story. And we interviewed the town mayor. He was like, yeah, this is unbelievable as this sounds. I believe this actually happened. I interviewed the local news station, you know, saying the same thing. They completely threatened to lock us up if we asked one more question at the military base Eza, to lock up the local media in prison for asking questions. They came down so hard. And then, you know, I don't want to give away too much of the film, the storyline, but because I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but they shut it down. They shut the story down. And then we came to the realization, not for about 10 years, on my last trip to Varginha, which was just last year, we came to the realization that the U.S. government was 100% involved, and that they arrived and we talked to the radar operator who saw the plane coming in and
saw U.S. Air Force plane come in?
United States Air Force airplane come in. And it came into the exact area where we knew the body was, because we interviewed the guy who drove the body to the location, and then the United States Air Force plane came in. Yeah, and then flew out, in and out. Yeah.
Wow.
So
it's heavy.
Highly likely, extremely likely that one of the reasons for the level of secrecy is that the Brazilian government would be exposing the U.S. government by revealing what they know. So I'm just guessing here, but there are some pretty crazy aspects that we uncovered during meeting the witnesses, and stuff that you just go, Jesus, like, really? Guys in suits from some unknown government agency coming and trying to like intimidate and influence testimony and offering large sums of money. Bribes. And then you've got like the lead UFO researcher on the case, Uberajada Rodriguez, who's a lawyer in the town of Varginha, who suddenly, after writing a book, does a complete 180 and he won't even talk to anybody anymore. Paccaccini, the same thing. Claudio Coville's unfortunately passed. But so they managed to like get the lead UFO researchers to either recant what they said previously or made to print in a book, or just go silent altogether and never comment on the case ever again. And then threatening the witnesses. They didn't say, I never heard a witness say to me, they said they're going to kill me. They just say the consequences of revealing what you know would be extremely severe. The punishment would be extremely severe. And then ask, you know, how's the family, you know, that kind of thing. So
Right.
So yeah. So now, as crazy as it all sounds, and I think I told your audience earlier, don't believe a single word I'm telling you, because I wouldn't if I were you. But this story happened.
One of the parts that freaked me the fuck out the most was the interview with the X-ray technician.
Crazy.
What did he say specifically? Like, how was his description of it?
Just working in the hospital one night, one late afternoon, early evening, and military trucks pulled up, and they're like, you're going to be doing some work for us. He's like, okay, like, what exactly am I doing here? And they had an object in a black body bag. He said it stank to no end, and it was kind of smaller, but he said that they were armed guards in there watching his every move, looking him in the eyes. You just perform this. You can't look at the x-rays. For the first time in history, he couldn't look at the x-rays, because he always verifies to make sure they come out.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't look at the x-rays. They just looked at him very carefully, and then he performed his duties. And then they said, don't you ever talk about any of this stuff.
And they said he said he x-rayed the skull.
All
the torso.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. He actually thanked us when, at the end of it, I mean, I think Marco Leal, my partner, co-producer, who's amazing, Brazilian, he said that, I think he spent like 8 years, because he found him in the hospital through a student that he revealed the story to once. But he was still working at the hospital, and he was like, they'll never ever reveal. And then he retired, and then we worked on him, and Marco worked on him for a couple more years after he was retired. And then he finally agreed, provided we shoot the back of him. But we got a photograph of him at the hospital. We shoot the back of his head and disguise his voice, that he'll come forward. And at the end of it, he said, I feel so much better. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this story, because I've been holding this on my shoulders for 26 years. And they all were quite honest. Could you imagine if something like that happened and you couldn't talk about it? That's a big deal.
Yeah.